How should you choose a credit card processing company if you are a retail store? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. TransactionExpert.com is the leader in transaction services. We build your online presence and point of sale system to integrate with each other. If you are ready to understand and control the entire customer experience, visit TransactionExpert.com. If you are a retail store that's looking to choose a credit card processing provider, there's a few things that you should consider, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video today. First of all, the first thing you need to look at is, what are you selling and what is your average ticket size? Because your average ticket size is really going to help you to understand where you want to focus on the negotiations with your new credit card processor, okay? Now, let's talk about kind of two different extremes first of all. So first, let's talk about the really small ticket size. So maybe you're somebody that has, for instance, a second-hand type store or a consignment store, some type of retail store where your average sale is below $20, especially if you're down around that $5 to $10 average ticket size where your average transaction is really small. If that's you, maybe you're like a convenience store, people come in and just buy a candy bar and a soda. If that's your type of retail business, you need to be focused almost exclusively on the transaction fee. In other words, what are you paying per transaction? Because that is going to have a much bigger impact on your business than the percentage fees. So even if they have a little bit of a higher percentage cost, you've got to be focused on all your transactions per item. I would even go so far as to ask the person who is setting you up with your credit card processor and say, okay, so exactly how much is it going to cost me to run a $10 transaction when someone uses a check card? Okay? In other words, what you have to consider in your retail business is that if you're a small ticket size, that means you are going to be spending a lot of money on these per item fees, and you need to know exactly how much it's going to cost you for a certain transaction, as well as when it's run with a check card, because almost all of your transactions are going to be with a check card, not with a credit card, okay? So again, to recap, if you're a small ticket size retail business, then you want to focus on how much would a transaction cost me total if it was a $10 transaction and it was run with a check card with the pricing that you're giving me. Now, you need to have that in writing, and you need to hold them to that. When you actually get your first statement, you need to look and see if they were actually telling you the correct information. Now, of course, in addition to the transaction fees, you are going to have some fees like your monthly fee, maybe a monthly minimum, maybe an annual fee, PCI compliance, and you need to understand all of those fees as well. But we'll talk more about that in a minute because that's not quite as important on the small ticket size. The most important thing is what is going to be my cost per transaction on a small transaction. If you are a large ticket size business, you are a jewelry store, you are a furniture store, you are somebody that you sell things, retail environment, but it's even high-end clothing stores, but you sell an average ticket size of, let's say, over $100. In that case, you don't even care really at all about the per item transaction fee. You need to be focused on the percentage fees, because on a big transaction, the difference between getting charged, 0.5% and 1.5%, that's a lot of money. That's like $15 per transaction. I actually had one of my personal clients a long time ago was a bike shop that sold these high-end bicycles, and his average ticket size was over $1,000 for these bicycles he sold. And I changed his pricing around a little bit. I actually increased his per item fees a little bit. His transaction fees went up, but his percentage fees went down, and because he was running transactions over $1,000, I saved him on average $30 on every single sale. On average, he saved $30 on every sale, and that just comes from actually understanding how all this stuff works, okay? So you got to have, again, high ticket size, focus on the percentage fees you're being charged. Low ticket size, focus on the per item, or the how many pennies per transaction, those type of fees. Now again, even on the high ticket size, I would try to pinpoint an amount, make the math easy, either $100 or $1,000, depending on what you sell, and ask the salesperson, I want you in writing to show me how much would it be to run a $100 transaction using a check card based on the pricing that you're giving me. If they cannot answer that question for you, they don't know what they're talking about, you should kick them out of your store and find somebody who knows what they're doing. Now, we have local transaction experts all over the United States and Canada. So if you're watching this video and you'd like to have somebody come in and kind of explain this in more detail, look at your statement, just go to our website, transactionexpert.com, click on Find a Local Expert, put your zip code in there, and we will send you to the appropriate profile of somebody that can actually help you in your area. Now, let's move on to a couple other things that are really important, though, as a retail establishment. One of the other things you have to look at is your processing volume. Your processing volume. Now, this is another thing that to me is really ironic and interesting. So if you're a small volume retail store, meaning you do, let's say, anywhere from $5,000 a month on down. You do 3, 4, 5, maybe 6,000 a month in credit card volume. I would say that's a small volume retail store. You also need to be focused not only on your ticket size and which one of those you got to look at. Also, you got to look at your fixed monthly and annual fees. If you were a small volume merchant doing $3,000 to $6,000 a month and transactions are lower, it's very important for you to look and see how much is my monthly fee. What's my monthly fee going to be on top of all these other fees? Because many times on a small volume merchant like that, your monthly fees can end up being more than your transaction fees and your percentage fees combined. Because you've got a $95 annual fee and you've got a $35 monthly fee, and that stuff adds up when it's a small volume merchant. On the flip side, if you're large volume and you're doing $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in credit card volume, you really don't need to be that worried about whether or not your monthly fee is $5 or $15. That really doesn't matter. You're going to be paying $800 or $900 a month in fees. You need to be looking at either your per item fees or your percentage fees depending on your ticket size, and that needs to be where you focus your negotiating attention when you're signing up with a new credit card processor. So if you're a retail business, I hope that gave you a little bit of insight. Again, if you want to talk to somebody that really knows what they're doing about this, go to transactionexpert.com. We have great free resources for you to look at there, and you can also talk to one of our local transaction experts. Thank you.